I in a wrong spot?
What are you looking for?
Sewer and water.
No, they're not meeting tonight.
They're not tonight? They do, can fire?
I don't think so. I can look, hey, let me look on the website and I'll see if they posted, what they posted.
What's they need here?
Buildings,
He doesn't know what it's called. No one knows what it's called.
Notice right here.
He's not recording, right?
That laugh.
They usually are this.
We are double booked.
I was gonna say, because once I saw Dick, I'm like, yes, this is usually the night they are.
You wanna try to do Joe's presentation real quick and then you guys can do
Sure,
discussion and stuff like that, and I'll talk to Ryan and see if they're okay with meeting 5 or 10 minutes late.
sure, yeah, we could do that, that's fine, yeah.
So start this fired up and then, yeah, we're fired up.
Okay, all right, so we're live, okay. Kristen Furtek calling the meeting to order for Monday, June 10th at 6:45 PM for the Land and Building Usage Assessment Committee. We'll do a roll call by all stating that you're here as we go down the line, please.
Sean Manning.
Brian Walsh.
Ken Woodward.
Angela Oresco.
Dave Murphy.
Great. Our first note on the agenda is to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented for this evening.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. The next one is to approve the minutes from our last meeting that was held on May 20th.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So we have a guest speaker this evening. Joe, and I don't want to butcher your last name, Jajinka, is a managing member of the Fremont Capital Management. I don't know, Angela, if you wanted to take a minute and just kind of briefly talk about how you made that connection with Joe?
Made the connection, I would say, a few months back. They approached me looking at some land here in Portland to do another project. And as we spoke, I mentioned this project, and he's kind of been, following us this entire time. So he's definitely up to date. He's already toured both schools, talked with Bob Shea, so he does know what's going on. We have met with Ryan Curley last week, so he knows what's going on as well.
Great, great.
So.
Well, thank you for making the connection. Joe, if you'd like to come up to the microphone, please. Thank you for being here and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. Joe Jajinka, like Kristen said, managing member of our.
We're not going to be with that air conditioner just turned on.
Am I on?
Yeah, you'll just have to speak up. So we
Okay.
Can you pull it closer to you?
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Jajinka. Like Kristen said, managing member of our Fremont Capital Management. I do real estate development, particularly residential and commercial real estate. I do want to say, thank you so much for that introduction, Christine and Angela. I think this is such an exciting time for the town of Portland. A lot of progress going on, and you can certainly tell that there's so much progress by just how busy Dan is.
Poor Dan.
Yeah. Like what Angela said, I had the opportunity to go and tour both schools. However, this evening I'm only going to share my opinion and kind of share some of my proposal on Gildersleeve building. Mainly because I agree with what everybody has brought forth, and all great proposals and input on what should be done with the Brownstone School. And also, I'm looking at this from a different lens, right? Although I agree with what some of the developers have came on and said about Gildersleeve, I see value in that school, in that building and the land it sits on, right? So my opinion, again, it's a little different from everybody in that I don't think demolishing that building maximizes value for the town of Portland and for the residents in general, right? I think repurposing and revitalizing that building, will address some of the immediate concerns, that could potentially happen if both schools were to be decommissioned, right? Like the gym, right? Personally, growing up as an athlete, both my boys are athletes. We've spent so much time, in gyms. So, taking down a gym, doesn't sit very well with me. It's just something that I cannot see. Now my proposal, basically I've got two options, right? And the first option is convert the building into 55 plus living. And as part of that, we'll have to reconfigure the classrooms into apartments, mainly 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom apartments, and maybe a few studios, right? Now, as a developer, I'll stay on as a property manager for the building. And the second option also entails converting the building into a senior living, now as assisted living facility. Now the facility will be operated by a separate entity, which, I guess both options will be for-profit entities kind of running this. And on that second option, there will be 1 bedroom apartments with a kitchenette, and we'll utilize the cafeteria, the kitchen, and the library. Now, the cafeteria and the kitchen will be used for meal prepping and dining for the residents. And so there's a lot that makes this building a perfect candidate, in my opinion. Really, I want to say the main thing, the location, where it's at. I think it'll be perfect for that type of a community. Given that they want to be part of everybody else. However, they don't want to be part of a more vibrant, loud environment, if you will, just the infrastructure itself, right? The building has wide hallways, big doors. There is no, stairs. There is, we have the cafeteria, we have the gym, and the library. All of those things could certainly be used for the benefit of the residents, right? And the downside, which I think this was also kind of brought forward, the HVAC system. That's really old. So we'll certainly have to look at and see, is that something that can sustain that type of community, right? The electrical service, gas service. Do we need to separate it all out into 20 or maybe 30 meters for each apartment? Certainly, things that we need to look at as we're looking at the feasibility of these proposals. Also a big thing, the windows. I just don't know how. It's certainly something that I overlooked when I went and toured the schools. The windows. Do we need to upgrade them into a rather more efficient type windows?
I think they're single pane, aren't they?
Yeah, if they're single panes, I want to say, I'm almost 100% sure that they'll all need to be changed, right? Now, with kind of both options that I presented or stated, we can certainly make arrangements to allow the Parks and Rec, to continue using the gym, and another sort of big thing that I think will certainly benefit the town, or maybe help the reconversion of the reconversion process, right? Like take, because that school sits on 60 acres of land, 16 acres of land. Maybe parse it out, right? The big part of the building can be sold off for development, or maybe kept within the town's inventory of land, and the town can determine what they need to do with that, at some point in the future. Other things that it could certainly be used for, maybe a splash pad, for the kids. There's quite a few, kids in the area. I'm sure, they'll love, something like that. Like a dog park, maybe a trail around that property. Just a park. It's certainly something that, I know the immediate family or families or residents will find that useful. Now, like I mentioned, with both options, the businesses will be for profit, right? And I think that will certainly maximize the town's tax base, right? And I also believe, I also foresee collaborating with the senior center. Maybe allowing the senior center to use like the kitchen or the cafeteria for special events and stuff like that. I believe conversion of both schools will be a very involving task. As I'm sure through some of your due diligence you've found out, right? But I think for with if this can be put on the right developer split, I think both schools can be turned into something that will certainly benefit the community. That's all I have.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I ask just a couple quick questions just to make sure that I understand?
Yes.
So with the thought process of it becoming converting it into a 55 plus apartment, I think you kind of just talked about it a little bit, do you see that whole building needing to be functioned, or do you see parts of the wing not necessary and that those could be potentially removed?
Yeah, so with that option, 55 plus, like the cafeteria, for example, right, that can be, somehow reconfigured into maybe, I don't want to say like a gym, like with a basketball court, maybe some treadmills, elliptical trainers. So that right there can certainly be used for that, right? So that, like the gym, we don't really fight for that gym space, and that will certainly allow for the parks and recs, I don't want to say full use, but, maybe somewhat unlimited use of the main gym with the basketball court.
Yeah, I think that's helpful because that was a question, and then obviously you answered it because I know, as you know, having kids in basketball myself, is that gym is used all the time, and I think we all kind of learned that through this process that with our 3 town gyms, they're used all the time between sports and after school programs, and I think losing one, potentially 2, is like shocking. So I think if there is some sort of rental option that we could borrow that that space, I think is something that we should think about, because I think having access is a good thing.
Absolutely. And my thinking here is maybe structure like a sale lease back of some sort, just on that portion of the building. And to elaborate further on that, like at the library, for example, that we'll certainly have to look and see, like, is there something that, that can be used by residents for something else?
Sure.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Yeah, and I think that the back park area, obviously there's a lot of ground there, but I think because it is surrounded by residents, if there's any sort of connecting piece, I think you mentioned like a dog park or something like that, or a walking trail. I think the residents around that, if there's some sort of perk that they can get from that, they might be more on board with the transitioning of a school to a different, a function.
Absolutely. I think it'll be, to just have that, within the town's inventory of land, it will certainly be helpful and be used, for the local, for people, immediately.
Yeah, those neighbors close
Yep.
by. Mhm.
Yep.
Do you guys have questions?
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're gonna put water and sewer downstairs, so you
Oh.
guys can go as long as you want.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you for accommodating us. Other,
A lot of miscommunication tonight.
it was a rough night tonight, apparently. Other questions? Anybody?
Was the focus of your, was it mostly Gildersleeve, and you also looked at Brownstone?
I did look at Brownstone, and really that's, I don't think, well, I don't have any appetite, for that. It's just that's not, something that I focus on. I try to do other things. But, like I said, I think, if, whoever is going to take that, I think they'll do a good job. If the right person, is takes that on, I can see certainly great things coming out of that building. It's really my hope that certain features of that building kept the way they are. And I think this committee should certainly look at at that as well. Because it's such a beautiful building, and I just don't want to see that turned into something else.
Yeah.
That's just that's just me.
Yeah, I
So
think,
very much the opposite perspective of the last person we met with, who had,
Correct.
A much greater appetite for Brownstone than Gildersleeve. But in your opinion, when you look at Brownstone, what do you see there? What's your vision for that building? What do you think? Apartments, really. Now for me, because those hallways, right, it will be like, normal apartments. Now, because you've got the large hallways, right, that takes up so much space, and, maybe somebody can come and make those, those hallways narrower, without compromising the integrity of the building. They can probably pull it off. But, for me, really, I'm more of investing in like senior living properties. Really, that's sort of what it comes down to. And in your opinion, the Gildersleeve building lends itself more to that senior living?
It does. Yep.
Right.
Yep. For a number of reasons, including, it's one floor. There's no, going up and down. The hallways are wider already. The doors are large already. There are, like certain challenges, right? Because the bathrooms, they're sort of in the middle, right? Each classroom converted into an apartment will need to have its own facilities, right? So we'll have to try and figure out how to make all that happen. The building doesn't have a basement, so that throws in another challenge right there.
now, were you originally looking in like the Portland area, or just kind of somewhere we're in, like East Hampton, this zone?
Well, honestly, all of Connecticut.
Okay.
All of Connecticut. Yeah.
Have you had a history of converting schools prior to that?
Well, not schools.
Okay.
I've done quite a few larger buildings into apartment buildings.
Okay.
And I'm at a point where I'm pivoting away from that to go into more like schools and senior living.
Anybody, anything else?
I'm good.
Do you have any questions for us?
No, I think
Okay.
I'm good.
Great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you.
If anything comes up, please feel free call or email. I believe Angela has my email address. Please feel free. If you we need to reconnect or if you need any further, clarifying, questions, please let me know.
Sure, great. All
Awesome.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you, Angela, for making the connection. Thank you for your time and for coming. Appreciate it. All right. So our next agenda item is sharing the info about the Pearson School redevelopment findings.
Yeah, this came to me through a fellow board member had seen an article, so she sent it on, and I started doing some research. Again, I have a call out to the superintendent, see if he knows anybody there. He's crazy busy with all the other stuff that's going on around the end of the school year.
End of school year.
I also have an email out to one of the partners that's doing one of the projects. I haven't heard back yet. I'll do another follow-up this week to find out anything. But I thought, I put some notes down. I did some research online. So it was interesting. Clinton actually had 2 schools closing over the last, 6 years. So I'll start with the Morgan School. And it's funny because this will play into some of our topics. Because it said what they did is the Pearson School, they had restrictions, but the Morgan School, they had no restrictions. So it kind of sounded like they learned a lesson from the original one. The first one, they approved the sale of $2.2 million to Indian River Landing Development, and to demolish what they considered a sprawling high school was between $2 to $3 million. That was in 2018. Obviously, costs go up, but that was like a 30-something acre parcel, but it was only had around 12.5 acres of usable non-wetlands, and that was allowable to
Excuse me,
develop.
was that the Morgan School, Dave? Or
Yeah.
Morgan,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's just a backdrop that, to give us some data that developer went in, they paid
Right.
$2 million. They're gonna, basically it's a wash on the cost there, and then they're gonna develop it into some single-family homes and some retail. But the space was limited, even though it was 30 acres, they're only using less than half of it. What was more interesting then is to go to the more recent article was the Pearson School, where they actually did something a little bit different, where they became like a partner, so to speak, with this company called Xenolith Partners and Hope Partnership. And I don't know if they're nonprofits, but they're doing a lot of that like beneficial stuff. But what they did is they sold it for $500,000, and it says, unlike the Morgan School, which was sold without restrictions, the town has played a more active role in the reuse of the Pearson School by requesting it be used for senior affordable housing and asking the developer to provide additional public benefits and public space, both on property for the community gatherings and in the school for the senior center. So it just, the point is, I think, is that if we find someone that we can partner with, we can put in restrictions that we want to use some or all or part of it, with probably the understanding that we'd probably get less money,
Yeah.
type of thing. So that's there's lots of ideas out there. So I thought that was kind of interesting, and then I kind of wrote some notes down that from what Joe was saying is that it kind of sounds like, I'm focusing on Gildersleeve. If the building remains, it's probably going to be a 55 plus, a senior or special needs type facility. Sounds like that's the theme we've been hearing. And if it's a demolished, it's going to be more like single family homes or 55 plus apartments or type of living. That's kind of where it seemed like some of that discussion's going. And Brownstone's a whole different topic. But I think the Gildersleeve, we're kind of seeing, in my mind, we're kind of seeing that dichotomy of opportunities for that kind of thing down there, and then the Brownstone has different opportunities because of the uniqueness of the building and uniqueness of the location.
Yeah, it's interesting that the 2 previous developers that we met with were definitely drawn more to Brownstone. I think that was a good point that you brought up, that this, that Jim was like the first one that was more intrigued with the potential at Gildersleeve. Because even walking through with Chris, he was honest. He's like, it feels so institutional that it would be a hard sell to do, a 55 and older senior center. But you just have to have the vision, right? And, and Chris, as soon as he walked into Brownstone, he saw the potential there. He was already like demoing parts of the building, and, and he's like, oh, this could be a 3-story building. You could see the view. So I think it was good to have a mix and have the difference of opinion in those 2 buildings and see the different
And then
perspective.
Joe got the same vision when he went into Gildersleeve.
Right,
He's
right.
like, oh, we can do this and this
Yeah.
and this, where,
Yeah.
so it does, You know,
Yep.
every home
Well, I
has a
think
buyer.
he
Yeah.
sounds like he specializes in the 55
Yes.
plus.
Yeah.
So he sees that.
Right,
Whereas
right.
some of the other developers specialize
In more of the
regular
apartments and
apartments
condos,
and
yeah.
properties,
Mhm.
and they can't see that there, but they can see something
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So it's a specialized, just from my high
So
level.
I think it's
Yeah.
finding the right developer with the right appetite, you know,
Mhm.
that has a vision.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
for
the
what could be
appetite, I
there.
like that word he
Yeah.
used,
Yeah.
he
Mhm.
said appetite.
Yep, yep,
You know, you could even consider that the lower 40 there, the back acreage, you know, you could potentially develop another senior living building to go in conjunction with that. So you'd have, you know, maybe two opposing buildings
Sure.
there, so that land, because it's gonna be landlocked, right? You know, so to try to make a dog park, which I know has been a.
I mean, I would love one, I can, we can walk our dogs there.
That was Dave's baby.
That was my baby, so why?
That was your baby, Dave, right?
You want a dog park or you don't want a
He
dog?
did.
Oh,
So if you know, along the lines of what Dave was saying, you know, if you could have some kind of a deed restriction that says this land will be, we will work with this developer under a public-private partnership to develop senior housing with the understanding that your piece of property would be used solely for that and not to be developed or sold or done anything else with.
yeah, yeah.
You know, maybe something like that, because then they could expand.
Sure.
You know, develop one building and then build a brand new one, or
Yeah.
vice versa.
Would there be anything, and this is just me throwing it out there, that we would sell the front third or front half of it and maintain the backfield for our own Portland
Well,
town property?
Isn't there an entrance, I mean, can't they make an entrance? Didn't we talk about that? About having
There-
an entrance somewhere else on another street?
There was an entrance designed years ago off of Prospect.
Okay,
But I think what happened there is that's where,
Is
I
there
think,
wetlands or something
the
over there?
water comes through by there. Do you remember, Dan? Is that where I see you walking up.
Dan Beret, town planner. Yeah, so that's where the wetlands are in the back, so you would have frontage potentially there, so you could subdivide. I believe Bob Shea was indicating there is access off of one of the neighboring adjoining roads in that newer development.
Oh, maybe off of
Kristen or
Victoria.
Victoria?
I'm trying to look it up right now.
Melissa or Julia?
I
Kristen-
Victoria goes this way and then,
think it's, yeah, the cul-de-sac for, why doesn't this have street names? Come on.
That was Julia. I walk my dog there every day.
Yeah, it's a cul-de-sac dead end right there,
yeah.
that abuts the field, so I believe that's where there could be potentially
Yeah.
access.
Where that little hill is.
Oh, it's Kristen.
Kristen, yeah, I should know that.
Should know that.
So, yeah,
I
I
look
believe
at the
there's
sign
access
every
there.
night when I go home.
So there could be a potential,
right, I mean, you
Connection
look at
somehow.
Copper Beach, what's their frontage?
right,
One road, and then it opens
opens up back there, yeah.
in the back, so, I mean, to me, I think that's a,
Yeah, because sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think we talked about something we threw out early on is because we're gonna be, by closing two schools, we're definitely gonna be closing or losing a lot of the, space that we use for a lot of our social services, like, Park and Rec and some of the other ones. And I think someone brought up that a project they were working on, or he read about, I think it was you, right, Bruce, about Brian, the steel building the town put up?
Oh, pre-engineered metal building is
The
built
field house.
Yeah, so.
as a temporary swing space.
Yeah, so what I thought of back then was if we were able to sell Gildersleeve, and we were able to keep a portion of the property and then either use an easement to get in by the building, or if we were able to get in off of Kristen or another entrance, we would still be able to maintain some of the space that we need in town, without spending a great deal of money to do that. Maybe even work it into the sale somehow.
well, you were talking about the flex space, it'd be a great place for flex, you know, if you needed that.
No, because it seems, it's like 16 acres. It seems like a lot of acreage for our town to lose for the potential unknowns, that we don't know right now. So if there was a way to split it up in the front half becoming, a senior center or 55 and older, and maintaining the back lot somehow as town property, that might be something to,
Yeah, the
Looking-
challenge, I think, one of the challenges there would be, you know, you have enough utilities kind of roughed into that space for that building as it exists. For any future development, you'd have to run new utilities
Right.
out there, yeah.
all the way in from Main Street,
Mhm.
you know, for any potential future development. So there's costs there that are
Sure,
open-ended.
sure,
You know, so
yeah.
what are you gonna build, and then you have to tear that all back up again. So there's a lot of forethought and planning that would go into that to say, what could this be used for, and what, you know, what we might need to rough it in for.
Right. And I guess the question is it worth holding on to as a town property for now? And in, 5-10 years, we're like, oh, we don't actually need it. Then at that point, would a developer be interested in doing something? Or maybe at that point, the senior center would be like, oh, we would like to expand, and then offer it back to them. I mean, this is just obviously talk, but.
Right.
I think the best, the best potential bang for the buck there would be to find somebody that was interested, like Joe or his company, in doing something there, and potentially utilizing the rest of the land for that purpose. Give it to one entity, to work with the town to develop something that works for everyone. But that's my opinion.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that today was it was great to have Joe talk,
Mhm.
because having a different perspective, brings a lot of value to us. And, but I think it's also important to know that the town has the ability to write the rule book.
Mhm.
So no matter what's done, no matter what is done, there can be,
Restrictions?
Yeah, restrictions
Put in.
or anything in the planning process that whatever is developed runs through, agrees with, work together with a developer, and that their approvals are based upon our acceptance. I mean, that's always something we can, that can be part of the process.
Right. And that's gonna be very important when we talk about biz and we talk about trying to sell that to the town, that, this might, if the best bet is to sell that property, we can protect it with restrictions and, place some, verbiage in there, what we want with the front facade, I mean, there's ways to get around so people aren't thinking that we're gonna sell it, somebody's gonna be able to tear it down or ruin that.
Right, or do
Main
whatever
Street
they
facade,
want.
which is what,
Mhm.
that is really the only thing I really think that is pulling on a lot of people's heartstrings, because I know people that haven't been in there in 50 years, but they just love driving by. They don't care about what the inside looks like anymore, because they
Maybe they
can't,
should tour
they
it.
can't remember it.
Could you imagine moving in
Huh?
there?
Biz.
Feel this-
Yeah.
Biz, yeah.
Biz.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's the main thing is with biz, is that's the one where I think we would get the most pushback of anything as far as
Yeah.
bringing someone in.
Mhm.
But then we can remind people that we have a say in how the front
Right.
stays and remains.
Yeah, I also think with Joe, it just adds to the list for Gildersleeve on what the possibilities are
Right.
for our end goal here, which
Right.
is what are the suggestions,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, I think, to your point, again, prior to tonight, the list of options for each facility with Gildersleeve, everything we've heard was nobody wanted it, couldn't see a use for it. Chris even mentioned, it's a little dated, institutional, but having a nice, clean perspective to say now that maybe is an option. So it's,
Right.
Sell, develop, so it kind of gives us a few other bullet
Yeah.
points there to say, here's some potential options. And knowing that, again, these are 3 and 4 years down the road.
Right.
So we have time.
And we had another gentleman here, remember that walked with us at Gildersleeve?
Oh, from Edelbrook.
Yeah, from Edelbrook. So that's another possibility.
And now with Edelbrook, they didn't think they needed all of Gildersleeve, right? Or did they? I know. Oh, sorry, Dan.
And plus they're nonprofit.
Plus
too.
they're nonprofit.
Yeah, that was a big difference.
That was the big thing.
Yep, yep.
I think part of it was they had just acquired a school.
Right.
So I'm not sure if they could forecast what there needs to be, but again,
Got
you know,
it.
we're
Doesn't-
talking 5 years out.
It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it has to be Edelbrook, it doesn't
Yeah,
mean,
right,
that's
right.
not the point. The
Yep.
point is, what
There's other
Edelbrook does
visions.
Mm-hmm,
could be a private
right.
use.
I-
So that's important. I also talked with, I don't know if this was brought up the last meeting. I talked with a developer builder that built numerous homes in East Hampton. Let's see if I have my notes. And we went through the size of the property, what a house would go for, you know, the comps in the area. I think we were thinking like a $400,000 house.
That's a good,
But, so we, you know, he's done, Chatham Forest, what else? Oh, Spice Hill, Royal Oaks. So very similar kind of
Mhm.
pieces of property that are single-family homes.
Mhm.
That's another one, but what we did, what I wanted to get to was the math to see how it pencils out if you have to, you know,
Subdivide
demo
it,
that
yeah.
building.
Right,
So
right,
the
right.
good news is, you know, he was very open and honest with me, and he's the one that said, you know, you guys can write the rules and what's approved and what isn't.
Hmm.
And he said, if you have a good developer, they'll work right with you and work with what you want to do. But, so when we looked at the cost to demo the building and the cost for civil design and to run utilities into that space, and 16 acres, how many homes would you get based upon a $400,000 home? Basically came out to a wash. I can share my math with you guys, but based upon the numbers we used, it was kind of a wash. Now,
Right.
With the purchase of the land included in that
Yeah.
figure?
yeah,
How much was the purchase?
Yeah,
the,
that you put down for the land.
let's see.
$640 or something sticks out in my
Yeah,
mind. I don't-
640. Let's see how many, yeah, let's see.
Was
So
that?
40, it was based upon 40,000 an acre
Okay.
for 16 homes, not an acre, but a half an acre.
Yeah.
Well, say a 50% loss.
Mhm.
And the range could be 35 to 50,000, but I just figured 40. Came up with 640,000. And then you have 200,000 in civil design, $1 million in site development to get your utilities in. You know, and the cost of demoing the building was 500,000. 500 to 750,000, so that kind of, what was almost the same as the 640s, falls right in between 500 and 750,000, so.
Right.
But, you know, that's just another suggestion on what that could be.
Mhm.
A single-family home development, like those three that I listed, that would be a totally different, you know, could be tax-paying people. Now, if you turn that into a multifamily, I'm not saying one big building like Brainerd, maybe it's 2 buildings or 3 buildings of,
High rises?
no, maybe 3 stories, 24 units each, something like that. All of a sudden, the numbers
Numbers go up, yeah.
are very good.
Mhm.
Right.
Obviously, density pays, right? So the more dense, the more people, the more value it brings to a developer, the more they're
Right.
gonna pay the town for that piece of property, so.
Yeah, I think that the fall with that would be the surrounding homes that are already there. They're gonna be the people be like, not in my backyard, right? I think the luxury that they've had in the field is so nice,
The
but.
tannery is, I
Mm.
worked on the tannery myself, and the tannery is those buildings. It's 24-unit buildings, 30-unit buildings, 42-unit buildings, 3 stories. There's one there's one 6-story, and then there's the other mill conversions, but
Mhm.
I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
the right,
Right, it's
wrong
just
or
an option,
different,
yeah,
but-
yeah.
Or the,
I totally, I mean, when I walk up the street from Main Street, down over through the field, and it feels like you're walking in Copper Beach without the construction there.
The neighbors would be open to that development pattern.
Right,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
a 3-story,
You know, that's pretty dense,
Right.
Copper Beach.
it is, it's very dense.
no problem,
But
No,
you,
it's like really dense. But,
especially right at the beginning.
I mean,
hate
the
it.
other thing too, using your numbers, I mean, where we had, I wanna try to see if I can remember the name, Larry
Dooley, yeah.
Mhm.
And he talked about, coming at net zero, giving them the property, and we're gaining it on the back end with tax. That would sweeten the deal a little bit if you were able to work with a developer like that, and they just wanted to go to single-family homes. If it came down to what is sellable in that neighborhood.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, another Copper Beach for me is fine, because I'm 2 streets over.
Yeah.
You're a little closer, it's all relevant, so you always,
Yeah, to me, I mean, you're right, I live right down the street. The Tannery, 2 or 3 smaller buildings, I don't see an issue with that. I mean, Copper Beach seems good, senior living sounds like good, or, there's some really good options and suggestions
Mhm.
we have here.
it's, I think what's happening now is by getting these different people in here, having 5 people come in and say, oh, I don't want Gildersleeve, I want this, and then 4 people now come in and say, hey, Gildersleeve doesn't look bad. I think what it's doing for me is taking those blinders off a little, right? Where I'm just like, okay, what are we gonna do? Because 2 months ago, or whenever we started, I think we all sat here, we were kind of stuck because the information
Right.
that we were getting told to us by other people was like,
Yeah.
we're kind of, we're in a pickle here. But I think now, Joe coming up and then a couple other people, I think it helps us that we have, like Brian said, you got to get the right person for each piece of property. And I think it's like we're doing with this new school, we keep getting it beat into our head. We gotta make people aware and transparent, and we gotta sell it, talk about it. I think our job is to, okay, get this out, like, this is what's gonna be coming in the future. We've gotta get people interested in coming to our town, looking at it and giving us ideas, and then when it comes down to that time, the Board of Selectmen has some, has some idea, maybe even has some people, they can put out a different, request for proposal, and we've done some legwork for them where we're not stuck, like we have been in the past in this town with vacant buildings.
The
And
two
it-
big takeaways for me, I think I mentioned one of this, nobody said we've got boat anchors that we have nothing to do with. Nobody said that.
No,
And the other thing is that we've had 4 or 5 people, about half of them have said they had a real interest in the property, not just I'm here to just talk to you about what ifs. So I can only imagine if we put this out to a bid
Yeah.
3, 4 years from now saying, hey, this is what we've got, come with proposals
Come
and
walk,
things like
yeah.
that. And I
Mhm.
feel, again, that's what we gotta try to install in the Board of Selectmen and in the town.
great.
Is there confidence that there are viable, beneficial options? And I think they are. I haven't heard anything negative
Yeah.
yet. We don't know exactly what it could be, but we know what it could be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We don't know what it will be, but we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. I think
like
that's a
Sean,
great
I'm agree
point.
with him. My mind is starting to get more
Yeah.
wrapped around possibilities than it was like at the beginning. Oh God, what are we gonna do with this?
right, why are we on this?
What are we doing?
Why did Brian put me on this committee?
Well, and
There's
I-
certain people that want certain things.
Right, and I think what was interesting is, and we know we have time, right? We don't
Yeah.
have to, sell this thing next week. So I think time is on our side, which we've all kind of acknowledged, and just bringing up the idea, and I know we've talked about it, is this whole Nordic spa thing. And I was at the craft fair this past weekend, and their booth was 2 over from ours. And, you know, just seeing the people that were attracted to figure out, what is this all about, right? And I think what they're doing is a very cool thing for our town. So I think in 2 years, once that opens, what will that do to our town? People are going to, want to come here for that spa, but it's trying to keep them here. What can Portland do as a town to keep people here? And, that's when the developers are going to start to want to come in. And hopefully that helps Brainerd sell more retail space, and hopefully maybe the other things will pop up in our downtown area. But I think when did they open? 2025, I think is what they were saying.
Late 2025.
So looking at them at 2026, what is that doing for our town? And, that might perk up ideas that we haven't even thought about. I mean, I feel like we've thought about everything, but it'll be interesting to see what becomes of it.
Well, it certainly makes that piece of property more valuable.
Yeah, especially Brownstone,
It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
And the possibility of the interest rates coming down over that period of
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
That we would, to me, totally be in the driver's seat. Even now, I love the positive spin you put on it, because I was the same way. Even thinking with Biz after we met with people and talked, I couldn't get out of my head like, okay, the best thing to do is this. But that's not what it's about.
Right.
It's about the collective suggestions of, the synergy of all the suggestions, not what it is.
Right.
So I got over it, and that's helped me to think about it in a better way, which is, there are some really good possibilities.
Agreed.
And as it becomes more valuable, there'll be more.
Right.
And I think this is gonna help because the number one question on the survey for the schools, other than what route to take with the schools, was, okay, what are you doing with these 2 buildings if you close them? So as we get closer to the referendum, if there's like, yeah, this is what people have said we could do with this, not what the committee said, but people we brought in,
In the industry.
experts in the industry in certain fields, that now we're kind of saying to the townspeople, the taxpayers, the people that live here, saying, okay, we can put our mind at ease. We're not gonna have another central school or Old Company 2 firehouse or whatever else we decided to let fall apart in the past. We actually have a vision of something that can happen when it's time for it to happen. And I think that's a big,
Yeah, that's
big
what
thing.
you're
Yeah.
talking about,
Right.
selling to it's not even a sell then, it's
Right.
just a
It's
discussion because
Send
it's
it out to the
sell
masses, right? Yeah.
to the selectmen.
Yeah.
I like, before, when we first met, I felt like we all got to that net zero conversation, and it was like, how are we gonna deal with that? How's Ryan gonna, that's
Yeah.
gonna be fun, conversation with the selectmen. Now, it's more like, I mean, Ryan's not here to tell us how hard it's gonna be, but now it feels like it's not that negative.
Yeah.
no.
There are solutions, there are positive
Yep.
things that can happen. There are good things that can happen for this town.
I think the perception is that, I don't think there's a huge windfall here financially. It may not be a net zero, but it's not, these properties aren't worth millions of dollars,
Right.
because of all the issues they come with. These are not blank slates, right? There's a lot of history to deal with there, and a lot of things that need to be addressed. But with the potential for, future tax revenue and things like that, when you package it all together, saying, listen, we may not make a lot on this property, but we're bringing in, a business that's going to continue to pay taxes and bring business to this town, it's a different perspective.
Right.
But I think in talking with people, at least that I know around town, they're like, well, they should be able to sell those properties for millions of dollars, and that's just not reality.
That's not reality, no.
But we had to get there first.
Right.
And that was a good lesson learned early. Because for me, I was trying to figure out, how do we get beyond that? But we did.
Yeah.
And and I think tonight's speech helped that.
Agreed,
Our
yeah.
guest speaker.
Feel a little
When
more
you
comfortable.
walked through Biz, when you had your notebook out and you were crunching numbers real quickly, and, you know, I'm looking at the, you know, listening to what you were saying to Ryan and looking at your expressions on your face, I'm like, oh man, we're in trouble.
Yeah, this is trouble.
No one's gonna even come in here and try to look at buying
Right.
one of these buildings. I mean, but that's sometimes how you think if you're on, you know, you think you're the one that's got to be responsible for it, right? And that's what I think was happening. It's like, no, we're not. And I think Dave said that a bunch to us. We're not the ones responsible for the end use.
Right.
Shifting gears here for a second, did we ever determine about the solar panels on Biz? Is that, those are leased, right? Those were
Yeah,
not purchased?
They're leased.
So do we know what
I'm
the,
not
do
sure. I
we
think-
know?
I know
Ryan
Ryan was
look
gonna
into
research,
that.
yeah.
I'll follow up with them.
Okay. Because that's, you know, just thinking about that last walkthrough with Chris, because he was like, okay, we just kind of lop off this part of the building and lop off this part and save the best part of the building, but when you start, you know, slicing and dicing, you know, you're into now, you know, a solar panel issue, which may become a deficit, because now, if they're leased, now Portland has to buy them,
Yeah.
you know, so that's a,
Yeah, it could be a, I think I mentioned this before, like wetlands. You build more wetlands. And we're gonna build a building to put the solar panels on. They're
That's right.
gonna move the solar panels around.
Mhm.
You know, maybe they don't go away, they get moved
Yeah,
around,
could they
yeah, it
move to
costs
the new
money,
school?
but-
As I said,
Yeah.
to Valley View.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, there's definitely, we should definitely know. where
What we
stand
can
with
do
that.
with those, yeah. Because that can.
Well, I was
become
getting very
costly.
discouraged, you know, with all the, you know, knock down the buildings, the net zero and everything. So tonight kind of gave me a little bit of hope.
Agreed.
You know, I kept hearing, you know, Joe mentioning the possibilities of Gildersleeve and, you know, his appetite. I love that word. His love for what he's doing and everything. And then, you know, you've got Brownstone that could possibly be a nice hotel, you know, because we do have all this wonderful stuff coming into the town of Portland.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Agreed. Okay, any other thoughts on that topic?
I was at a, I mentioned this one of the walkthroughs, but I was at a, hospice. And the building was just beautiful. It's, you know, one floor. There's actually two pieces to the complex. One was a two-story building where it was planning with families, you know, everything to do with planning and families and therapy and group stuff and all this stuff. Offices. Not a huge building by any means, maybe 10,000 square foot each floor. And then 24 rooms, hospice rooms. And it was, I could see that on that property at Gildersleeve. Just beautiful setting, you know, beautiful walking trails, just,
Agreed,
it was
yeah.
magical.
Yeah.
Just being there, so that's something that, you know, I was thinking about.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think it'd be neat if you went to school there as a kid and then ended up living there as a senior.
That's right, that's right. Yeah, yeah. Circle of life, right?
cradle to grave.
Yeah,
Right
that's
on the
right.
grave, you got it.
That's for real.
All right, any other thoughts on that?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. So the next thing on the list was just kind of talking about the next steps. So we have a meeting next Monday, and that's really to focus on the matrix and any info that we want to share with the board presentation. It looked like Ryan was just, you know, sharing the matrix and like a bullet point list of kind of our conversations, so looking through the meeting minutes. I can partake in that meeting, but it'd be helpful if I had a teammate in crime, so I don't know if anybody else is able to come to that meeting. I think it's on the 26th or 28th, whatever that Wednesday is.
I can come to that
26.
if you want me.
26.
Yeah, like I said, I just having another person that participated in these, I think is helpful.
So is that, we have a matrix, we have. are
Yes,
we
I
gonna
have it
write a
here
report?
supersized.
But before you do, what's our, I mean, we know what the goal is of this. Are we producing a report as well as a matrix? Is that what we're doing, to hand
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're gonna be
And I
voting.
think the report is, taking all our meeting minutes, talking about the process. I think it's, obviously including the matrix. I think it's, talking about the folks that we got to meet with. And I think it's just kind of taking everything that's in our meeting minutes and everything that we did and kind of just putting it with a cover and a booklet and be able to hand that off. Talking with Ryan, he really just said it'll be nice for us just to update, the board with all the things that we've been doing. We've kind of been in our own little silo. Obviously, they have access to our information, but I think come and talk about our process and where we're at.
Yeah.
Just so it doesn't need to be a super
And
big
that's the
presentation.
26th.
Is that the
Wednesday
Wednesday?
night.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday, the 26th.
So if anybody besides myself is able to come.
We still have our meeting the 17th.
So are we
Yeah.
supposed to have a
Sean.
report for that meeting, or?
No,
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 okay.
it didn't sound
We
like
have the
it.
night with all the other,
That's when we're having public hearings.
Yeah, I don't know if you were at that, Ryan requested that.
so is this part of the regular meeting, or just?
Yeah, that would be, must be part of the regular meeting.
It was a meeting that was supposed to be on the 19th, but Juneteenth
The
is considered a
26th.
holiday.
That's kind of where we're at, that's where we're headed.
Yeah, but we have public. That, no, I know. Do we have 2 public hearings that night too? Oh, that's at 6:30.
I don't know your business.
I know the 18th we're screwed, but I don't know about, I know the 26th, but yeah, that would be just in communications. It'll be on the agenda, whatever.
Okay, we'll figure, we can figure out the detail, we got a little bit of time. So this is what, I think I sent this out to you, this was the status of where the matrix was out at, but I sent it all in case there's things, obviously this was me just doing a draft, so I don't necessarily know that the dollar signs, are true or not, we might have opinions if it should be $1 sign, $2 signs, but, sorry, Dan.
No, I was gonna say, let me hold it over there.
Oh.
Is that cool? And then
Sure.
the video camera
Oh,
can see
yeah.
it, and then.
I was gonna say, you could probably put it on that easel, I realize that part of this easel is missing.
Yeah, whatever you wanna do, I can set that easily.
Yeah.
Should have been smelling more.
Yeah, yeah.
So just go through these and we'll touch base with them again next week, but keep as a town property, repurpose, that option could be good for brownstone or Gildersleeve. Keep as town ownership, but rent to other users, that could be for both brownstone and Gildersleeve. Sell the building to developer, could be retirement or nursing center, could be both options, brownstone and Gildersleeve. Sell building to developer for condos, apartments. At the time, we had Gildersleeve, but I think in this conversation on the ground pen, that might actually be able to be both properties. Demolish building and sell property. That is not an option for brownstone, we could do Gildersleeve, but not brownstone. Repurpose for multifamily use, potentially could be both, but I feel like is that pretty much saying that? I think that's pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah, so we can get rid of that one. Repurpose for boutique hotel, obviously is brownstone, not Gildersleeve. Maintain portions of building, rent out other, so that would, similar to keeping like the gym, some of the classroom space at Gildersleeve, just for Park and Rec. We had for both. What are your thoughts on that? Would there be a use of maintaining parts of the building, renting out others? What do you think?
I think that should just be a generic, if you're gonna have an introduction, say that with all of these options, if we go down a certain path, we could do some restrictions where we maintain parts of the building with the right partner. It'd be very
Yeah.
vanilla.
That option, I think, becomes a real challenge, because both buildings need new heating systems and air conditioning systems.
Right.
And they're both currently dependent, like neither one of the gymnasiums or the amphitheater building, they're all dependent upon the other building, they're not standalone.
Yeah.
Right, so no matter what you do, any developer that's gonna come in is gonna have to keep that in mind, so that's not an easy solution.
Yeah.
No.
Is it worth keeping on the list, or?
I guess we could, but it would be,
Significant challenges.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's more, maybe it's just worded different,
Yeah.
which means it's not this. Which is something like what Joe's talking about.
Perhaps it's, yeah, it's just gonna say that, yeah. That we,
The partnership, the developer
you know, the partnership is our approval process and their willingness to work with us.
Right.
And that can be how it looks, what it is, and after it's developed. But that's, I'm not saying any of that is.
And I think some of these comments get further developed out in your pros and cons.
Right.
Like, so even going back up at the beginning where you're saying, you know, town keeps ownership, you know, that could be a serious con, and that, you know, there's a continuity of cost. You know, so you're gonna have to insure the building, you're gonna have to maintain the building.
I don't
Like
know
that,
if
not
that's
only do
even
you
a
not sell it,
concept.
but then you also have to maintain it and or upgrade it. You know, so those fall into those other two columns, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and we can, you know, fill these in further, obviously.
Would you guys, would you think, would we want to, after we get this whole list, would we want to you know, like in order of priority, or is it just a list?
I think at this time, maybe just a list to show the board what we're actually doing,
Yeah.
what we're come up with so far,
Yeah.
because right now, I don't think we've really we haven't come up with a list which we think is priority.
Right, but there may be, I was thinking more or less like an A, B, C. Like, they're all on the list, they're all possibilities. Some of them seem better to us maybe than
Right.
Well, I was gonna
others.
say, that's the thing, right, becomes an opinion, right?
Yeah.
We might think it should be priority 1, 2, 3, 4, but somebody else come in and be like, well, I think 4 is number 1. You know,
Right.
so I think that might be the tricky part.
Yeah,
right?
okay. No,
Yeah,
that's
I
good.
think,
But I don't know if we're able to get like the cost, and like I said, I just threw numbers in here. Maybe we could organize it that the most expensive stuff happens on top, or, I mean, we can look at,
And I think that's important though, in the beginning, I don't know if we're gonna talk to it or have a slide that talk, all the people that we've had discussions and toured the building, because before that was just our opinions.
Right.
Now we've got these people that
professionals,
have
yeah. experts.
toured this and given us their opinion.
I think that falls more towards like a executive summary, saying, you know, as this board has met with the following. You know, we've met 6 times, we've met with these developers, we've talked to these people, you know, and that's kind of summarizes what this is, and then you further develop this out into maybe 2 or 3 bullet points, but the development bullet point might be, you know, condos, residential, you know, boutique hotel, you know, so it gives you, you know, almost like sub-bullets, but you're still keeping to 1 or 2, 3, you know, major bullets, and then subdividing those down into here's, you know, if we sell it, here's the potential that we see, you know, something like that.
yeah.
No, that's, I like that too, because that's what we're doing. It's the suggestions of what they could become is keep as town property and repurpose. That's a suggestion, right?
Yeah.
Keep as town ownership, but rent to other users. Is that a suggestion, like, of what it could be?
I think that's just a suggestion of how we can handle it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Where to your point,
So you're still keeping it as town property, but it's like, you know,
But what
then
is-
the
But I think
sub-bullet is
that's-
repurpose, the second one is to be a landlord, you know, to
Yeah.
rent to
Yeah.
others.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
is that something that, you know, may not be the best option, but hey, it's an
Right.
option,
Right.
right?
Right.
Not everybody might like that idea, but it's something we, you know, there's a
Right.
possibility there, but it's not without cost.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not as clear, it's not as black and white as hotel, senior living,
Right.
single-family homes,
Correct.
you know, whatever, those kind of
So,
examples.
so maybe as a suggestion, you know, you have, you know, the number 1 would be, you know, keep, you know, town maintains ownership, and then there's a couple of bullet points underneath that. The second one would be town, you know, sells to developer for repurpose, and it could be multifamily housing, senior living,
yeah.
boutique hotel. And then the third option is town just sells properties outright for future development by others, you know,
Right.
without a lot of input, you know, just sell properties.
Yeah.
Which could have, in the notes section, something about the approval process. You know, that they work together with us. We have the final say in the approvals.
Right,
So that's not a complete negative.
right.
It's actually might not be a negative at all.
It might be
Because
more of
it's,
a positive than a negative.
Yeah. So,
And don't put numbers on anything, because I know we're for first, second, third choice.
Yeah.
Right, right,
Just
right.
bullet
This was
points.
just for our conversation, if you
Yeah,
were saying, oh, what
yeah.
is number 5? That was just more for,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but I agree with you, yeah, not to show the numbers.
Well, that's, is that what you meant? The
Yeah.
item numbers?
Yeah.
Because really, we talked about, geez, you gotta know the cost, right? You gotta,
Right.
do you?
I mean, we're coming up with suggestions. Do,
I
cost
don't really
drives
think, because
someone.
we don't really know.
We don't.
We don't know the cost. We just know from who we've talked to, and just by using you two experts and Kristen on that deal with this, you guys have a vast knowledge of commercial property and what certain costs are. So, but I think, to present it at this stage, I don't think we really need to,
I don't think we
No.
should.
No, I don't-
because
I
we
agree.
really.
They're gonna get fixated on the number.
Right,
Yes.
because we
And it-
have, it's not like we went out and had somebody come in and do a, an
Full
estimate on what I can
design
do with, if I
estimate.
converted this
But which
to.
one will better?
Right.
I think if we
Portland.
don't talk about the cost at this point, it's,
And maybe leave it just like that, cost with dollar signs in it.
Yeah.
So that they know we thought about,
Mhm.
something,
Correct.
yeah.
instead of not having that on there, what about the cost?
Right.
Up there, somebody can
Just-
see,
yeah,
well,
it's
they
like-
thought about it, but they don't want us
Just
to
like
know.
when you're online, restaurant.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right. The
Yelp.
special zero.
Yelp.
Oh,
Yelp.com, $4 signs, we're not going there. Not with family.
Well, there's so much that could change in the economic climate. In
Right.
the last 6 years, the building cost index will tell you that construction costs have gone up 34% in 6 years, but we don't have a crystal ball that tells us
Right.
what the economy's gonna look like 4 years from now. We just know as we look at it, as we sit here today, these are potentially projected costs of where we see things, but this could all change based on, completion of development and further development in the town.
Right.
So I think that's part of that executive summary discussion, saying, there's not a lot of major windfalls here, but the climate could really, the economic climate could really change.
Yeah, so I think next week what we'll do is we'll go through this with a finer tooth comb, make sure that all the talking points, that these all make sense, the pros and cons as a team. I'll start to create a bullet point list, or at least talking points for the building and board committee on the 26th. And I think that's really what the next steps are. And after that, I think we're starting to write the report.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any other experts or any other folks that we need to.
Well, I
You
contacted
guys mentioned
Colliers, and he's, the gentleman I talked to is commercial real estate broker, and he's working on a project now in West Hartford, very similar to this, to Biz. So I have to send him some information on it, so he can kind of digest. But, I'll do that just to get his thorough feedback and thinking through the process. But, and I didn't throw any leaders out there to him, like, wanting him to say a certain thing. But all he said was, I told him what we're up against, what we're trying to do, and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, get ready, because, it's gonna be, it almost costs as much to demo buildings as it does as your property's
We're
worth.
hearing that everywhere.
So I didn't even go there,
Right.
But I kind of, wanted him to say something, and that was,
But is that why a lot of these developers like these school town buildings? Because there's not a lot of, sometimes there's no money requested. They will give you the land or the building for this one for Pearson, they're giving them $500,000 for them to redo
Yeah.
something with the building.
well, you're gonna see all the people come out of the woodwork and tell you every single thing that's wrong with these buildings,
Right,
to get them to be,
Yeah.
who's gonna, we'll be paying them.
Yeah.
That's
right,
how they-
yeah, take it, here,
Yeah.
how much more do you want?
But it is interesting what you said, is, we've had these sprinkle of folks that come in, but if you put this out to the masses, what do we get from that, who would be interested, people, in other parts of the country,
But- right,
never
but
know.
there's-
Yeah, I would never thought Nordic Spa would
Right.
find
Yeah,
our
they only have
town.
two other ones, I was
But-
talking to them, they have one in
Right.
Canada and one in Alaska,
Yeah.
they only have 2 locations,
Yeah.
and they're looking for a spot in Denver right now, in Portland, Connecticut, it's crazy, and I was
So-
like, why Portland, she said, because of the site, it's exactly why. Yeah.
But one of the things that came up was, when Larry was here and he talked about, getting a economic development grant and because you're getting that grant, now you have to, it's gotta be prevailing wage. So that's where some of those numbers get skewed.
Right.
So, you know, it would be nice if you had somebody to come in like we are with Nordic Spa, who's just coming in with their own money and say, hey, I wanna buy biz, I'm hiring my own guys,
Right.
no prevailing wage, everything seems to come down a little more, and then maybe we can sell it without having to write them a check.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you want to propose in 2026, right, after Nordic Spa's been open for a little bit, see what it's done to our industry here in town.
I'm not necessarily married to that top, but what I'm saying, so the three options, you know, we could wordsmith that, but it's, you know, one would be to keep, and there's several options. The second would be to sell maybe, and then stay involved, either as a PPP. And then the third one, like Sean was saying, is just sell outright, just get rid of it and let them do whatever they're gonna do. May not be the most popular option because there's a lot of romance with brownstone and people are gonna think,
Plus, remember, this is an update meeting too. I don't think it's our final meeting, so
No.
they're probably gonna say, well, what's next?
Right.
Well, I
right.
think we're gonna.
But I think we're just
continue
talking
on
about in
the
preparation for next Monday's meeting
Yeah.
to further develop this
same-
matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
For
then
the
everything in
further
one has
thought.
this, so if you want to take a little bit of time and do
Yeah.
what it's here, it'll save us a little bit of time next week. But other than that, any other comments on that?
No, I think we're doing pretty good.
I guess. All right, so I make a motion to adjourn at, sure, of course. Yes, of course.
Are you going to convert that matrix to PowerPoint? Because you cannot see that. I'm having trouble seeing it from here.
Sure.
And if you're presenting to the Board of Selectmen, you want them to be able to see it. you
Because
know?
I can't see it.
Yeah, yes, I can
I
put,
sit where Angela is and I still want to be able to see it.
Oh, I can't see it.
yeah, I would assume it would go into a PowerPoint, as long as I can, portray from a laptop or a disk and put it up on PowerPoint. Yep, no problem.
That's a good point.
I'm always thinking of Sean.
So is that for the next, when we give them an update?
Yeah.
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 The 26th.
26, yeah.
26th.
Yeah.
We're meeting again next week to.
Yeah, to finalize
Yeah,
our
I mean,
thoughts.
worse than just slap draft across it, just say
Yeah,
this is.
well, yeah,
this is the
and
draft,
it
this
is, right? I
this,
think, and that's the point. I think when
We'll
Ryan
totally
presented
do
was
that.
more of just to
Watermark.
update them
Yes.
where we're at, what we've been doing. I mean, we've been meeting since when? January, February?
Yeah.
So just to kind of
Yeah.
give them some information of what we've been doing. All right,
I would also suggest that maybe we have a handout
sure.
in addition to this, because I know that a lot of us.
Not this big.
We're gonna need bigger tables. Yes.
Which is important. I mean, we're glad we're talking about it. I've come to so many of these meetings where you can't see what they're showing.
Yeah.
Right.
On the screens, and you look up at that TV and they're like,
Oh, yeah.
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 and so it's tough.
Oh, yeah.
And then
Yep.
that way you can get it to Ryan. So
Very
you
aware
can
of
hand it
how the
out and then have
presentation
extras,
looks.
people that
Yep.
are in the.
Yep, I could do that. All right, any other thoughts? Thank you for
No.
bringing that up.
Yeah.
Okay,
I second the motion to adjourn.
great. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Yes,
You're big
I think you did.
research.
I started it.